We have a bunch of weak, feckless leaders
Wide
creating
around
hard
the
times
event.
right now.
What the fuck is going
Will
on?
you let me
right
Do
now?
we take him out to a farm and shoot him?
No spin, no filters, just the real conversation.
I hope it's not short-lived, man.
So here's something that we really need to dig into, and it's the idea that tools the U.S. government uses abroad to deal with problematic leaders were turned inward and weaponized against Trump during his first impeachment. So I'm talking about this concept called transitional justice. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's typically something we see in post-conflict countries. Think places where regimes fall apart or dictators are ousted, and the new government wants a clean house, right? They don't want to have to deal with the previous regime or any of those people, right? So they use this transitional justice to prosecute the old regime's leaders. They get the media under control, install their idea of democracy, and proceed. So this sounds like a good idea on paper, right? Especially if you're the incoming government. But stick with me here, because according to Mike Benz, the same playbook was used right here at home in the United States to go after Trump.
Dude, I literally, like you said, transitional justice, right? And I was like, cool. It's a new catchphrase. I have no idea what it's all about. The moment that you described it, I was like, oh, he's talking about regime change. This is literally the thing that almost every sane human being in the world is like, please no, let's stop doing regime change. What the fuck is going on, right?
And
It's
here
like,
we are using the same playbook domestically.
Yeah, I knew that we were doing regime change domestically. I didn't know they'd recaptioned it like climate change and global warming and whatever else, global disruption.
They need a good name.
Yeah.
I call so it's actually not it's a function of regime change. So
It
you have
sounds
the
the
first
same
part.
way.
It does. So you have the first part, which is the disposition of the existing regime, right? Kinetically, whatever. However you're gonna get rid of them, you get rid of them. And then you to ensure that the new people that come in remain in control, you ensure that the mechanisms that got the previous regime in place are corrupted and ousted. So you're talking media, influencers, you're talking about, potential contenders, right? All of those guys, they're imprisoned, they're exiled, killed, and then their name is run through the mud.
Yeah. All of the
Transitional justice.
evils that we can imagine happening within all of the corruption, every sci-fi book has ever had.
Exactly. Anyway.
That's terrifying.
So this is part 2. So this is the second part of a regime change that we're talking about. So let's talk about this guy, Norm Eisen. It's a name most people probably don't know, but absolutely should. Eisen is one of the guys behind the scenes during Trump's first impeachment. He's not just any lawyer. He's someone who spent years working with the U.S. government in Eastern Europe and other hotspots, using legal tactics to push U.S.-aligned reforms under the banner of democracy. Now, what this guy Mike Benz is arguing is that Eisen brought this same foreign policy, the same strategy, back to the States to go after Trump. And the way it works is this, okay? So transitional justice usually starts by building a legal framework that makes it easier to go after political figures and neutralize its opposition. In foreign nations, we say it's all about rooting out corruption. But domestically, in Trump's case, it was about impeaching a president before he even took office. So you heard that right. There were impeachment articles drafted before Trump had even set foot into the White House.
That's the insurance policy, man.
I don't even understand that. Like,
This is
I was
the
a liberal.
same shit that I've been fucking arguing with you for fucking literally like 8 years now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And and I'm not bringing up like, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm not looking for validation, right?
You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
But what
You
I
earned
am
it.
trying to tell you, okay, is the moment that he came down the fucking golden escalator, right? It was fucking set in stone what the deep state was doing. And I know we've gotten into massive arguments about the term deep state, right? But it is a real thing. It is there. We have a vast population of our non-elected officials within this country that are put in place because they have been vetted in a corrupt manner. Okay. Say they talked to a 16-year-old girl illegally 20 years ago, whatever. something that they don't want their wives to find out, something they don't want their mothers to find out about. They had a good time in Mexico. Whatever it is that they have, this dirt that they have on these people, they promote those people because they can be controlled, right? And that's how this system propagates. And they're all unelected officials, and you see it in outcomes like, I don't know, 51 intelligence agencies vouching for a laptop they absolutely know is Hunter Biden's, right? And discrediting right before an election. And this system virtually ensures that every single person that is in any kind of position of authority within the United States government is corrupted. And it's things like Epstein's frickin' island, right? Like, that guy had to have been a CIA agent. He had to have been.
He was an asset.
He had to have been. You know?
I 100%. And by the way, if you didn't need any more clear indication that Trump wasn't going to survive till November 2nd, he came out on the Lex Friedman's podcast, and said that he was going to 100% open the black book.
Perfect.
He's a no, he's a goner.
No, I'm just saying he's got a death wish. That's the thing that I love and hate about Trump. Okay. The guy doesn't have the ability to play poker. He cannot hold his cards.
No.
Okay. He has to play them.
Yeah.
And what it does is he turns into a lightning rod for corruption within this country. And I have never even imagined the level of corruption that I have seen since Donald Trump started running for this presidency, in 2015. I couldn't even imagine, like, looking back on it, because hindsight's 2020, right? Like, I didn't see it for what it was until a few, I don't know, 4 years ago. No, 6 years ago. Probably 6 years ago is when I really started to see it. But it was just like every day it was like, here's another thing. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
There was so much stuff coming out against Trump. It was literally every day. Every week it was something new. And even, to the chagrin now of all of these popular late night, people, these late night hosts who do comedy hosts, they were saying it too. They're like, this week on the Trump files, or this week on Trump, this week in the White House, and they've just re-air it because it was a joke at that point.
Right.
Anyway, so this is exactly what Benz is claiming, right? Is that Eisen and other key players, they essentially viewed Trump's populism as something dangerous, something that had to be taken down with the same legal tools we'd use on a corrupt leader in a foreign nation. They didn't just dislike Trump, they saw him as a threat to the political order, and to them, the only way to save democracy was to take him out through this lawfare. Not warfare, lawfare. So what did they do? They cherry pick an event, the infamous phone call with Zelensky, and frame it as an impeachable offense. Now, I'm not saying what Trump did on that call was a good move, but Benz's point is that it really wasn't about the phone call. The impeachment was a weapon and a broader strategy. So you can even look at the media machine that was backing all of this up, right? The narratives about Russian collusion, Ukraine, the impeachment were all funneled to the media to shape public perception, creating this infinite feedback loop. The media said, hey, look how corrupt Trump is. And the legal team said, see, this is why we need to impeach him. Meanwhile, a good chunk of America just bought the story. We didn't even get a chance to think about it.
Yeah.
And then we argue, right? You like you're saying, a couple years later, the light bulb went off for you, right? And you're like, holy shit, Jesse, you should look at all this corruption. And I'm like, holy shit, Zach, you're a QAnon person.
Yeah, I mean, literally
what I said.
I was like, what the fuck is QAnon? Like, when you told me you're QAnon, I was like, what the fuck is QAnon? I actually had to look it up.
Right.
Because I was like, what the fuck is going on right now?
It was good.
But I've looked maybe like 5 seconds into QAnon, and I was like, okay, that's bullshit, right?
Oh, yeah.
Throw it out the fucking window. But just because anyone can critically think, and this is going to happen to you now, people are going to kick back at you, Jesse, and they're going to be like, dude, you're insane. There's no way that you're coming up with all this shit. You're a conspiracy theorist. And to be honest with you, this is why I tag conspiracy theory in almost every TikTok video now. I mean, my wife is doing it for me, but It is where it is. You know?
It is. It is. It's 100%. I've already gotten it. Like I literally brought up the fact that there was an FBI agent. This guy, right? What was his name?
Ray Epps.
Ray Epps, right? He was in there with the megaphone, and the response was, "Oh, okay, so he worked for the FBI, but he was still an insurrectionist." I'm like, "No, he was an FBI agent trying to instill and bring out the insurrection." No, he was just a guy. He should be fired.
Tell him to look up how Martin Luther King's protest got shut down. Right? Come at them from an angle where they can be like, oh, okay, I care about black people. I care about Martin Luther King. Let's see what the heinous acts the FBI has committed against that guy. Try that fucking angle.
I have decided it's just not worth my time with these particular people. Just like you, right? You got people in your life that you care about, and it's just not worth the argument. However, out in
it was always
daylight,
worth the argument with you, Jesse.
Oh yes, I see. You and I can have this conversation, and we're gonna go and sleep perfectly fine, regardless of what comes out of each other's mouth, because we know it's just a political thing, and it's just like anything else. It could be.
There
a video
were a couple
game,
times. I won't lie to you. There were a couple nights where I was like, "Baby, sue me." Jesse hurt my feelings tonight.
I'm sorry.
No. I bring it up as like, farce, but there were a couple times where I was like, I just don't understand why he doesn't get it.
It's so hard to get. Like this.
It is.
This is not like calculus, right? This is not like learning hiragana or kanji.
There's no right answer.
It's really hard to convince somebody that they've been duped. It's like we were saying this earlier. It's easier to just deceive somebody than it is to tell them the truth. If I need to change your mind in a heartbeat, I'm just going to lie to you, because it's going to be way, way easier for you to believe a new thing erroneously than to believe the original lie.
That's why it's easier to scream out fire than rape,
Yeah, that's exactly it. So Benz makes this argument, okay, that the strategy is straight out of the U.S. playbook for dealing with regimes in other countries, but now they're using it against Trump. The impeachment, just like transitional justice, wasn't just about the crime, right? It's about branding Trump as this corrupt and dangerous individual. It wasn't just about getting him out of office. It was about making sure populist leaders like him couldn't rise again. So how does this all tie together? Transitional justice, in theory, should be about holding people accountable and restoring order. But in Trump's case, it was more like lawfare, weaponizing the legal system to suppress opposition. And Eisen, he was right in the thick of it. He knew how to use these tools abroad, and now he's turning them against an American president. And in the end, the whole thing wasn't just about Trump. Okay, it's about setting a precedent. The goal was to make sure that populist movements like Trump's, and let's be honest, love or hate him, that's what it is, could not take root again. They wanted to make an example out of Trump so that anyone else who tries to buck the system would think twice. And that's the real kicker. That's where we're at right now.
I mean, that's exactly, because like, imagine trying to run for president and you realize that you have not spent 50 years in the political system like Joe Biden, right? And you're just a Donald Trump. He's got a name, right? But if you're a Zac or a Jesse, you're not running for president. 30 years ago when we were kids, dude, everybody wanted to be president.
Right.
It was a lofty goal, but it was an achievable goal in America, right? It was a lie that we told ourselves. Today, looking at what Donald Trump has gone through, there's no way. It's like, no, you can't be president, dude. You made one mistake. They'll shame you. You got a skeleton in your closet. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. You can't run,
Absolutely.
It is a shaming of the American people. It is putting barriers within, the community so that you can't go and achieve your dreams. It is scary what they have done to the American country that I used to fucking know and love,
Right.
Like I really do. It's like almost like a stranger anymore when I think about my country.
It's a different country. It is.
Yeah.
Since when we grew up in the mid 80s to now, it's a very different place.
Yeah.
Think about the malls, the power ties,
I
kids,
know.
remember physical education
Old people
was
power
physical
walking in the
education.
malls for exercise.
Dude, the whole thing. Now it's just it's a ginormous mess, man. It's a ginormous mess. So ultimately, just to conclude my point here, if these mechanisms like transitional justice, legal warfare, whatever you want to call it, if they can be used to silence opposition abroad, it was just a matter of time before they could be used here at home. And this is something that we need to be paying attention to, especially now as we're going into this election cycle and we're watching it play out live.